allow the recording here.
All right, good evening. Welcome everybody to, I think, our fourth week now of live No Sunday Scaries Club. Welcome, Jake. Good to see you back from vacation, my friend.
Good to be here.
Refreshed.
Very much so.
Smile. You can tell by the smile on your face. Just a reminder, everybody, you can get this as a podcast on Spotify. You can also watch the video on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe in those places. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you listening. I am very humbled and proud to be able to present our guest this evening. Jake and I met Hal Carmean in the beginning of January of 2022. It was a chance encounter at we'll call it an evolution that we experienced together in the Northern Hills of Georgia. Hal was one of the instructors in the group that Jake and I were in during that evolution, about a 48-hour period where we were challenged both physically and mentally. And Hal really inspired Jake and myself. So we asked Hal to come and hopefully inspire you guys as well. Hal is a Christian husband, father, son, teammate, and friend, founder and president of Creative Wealth Management, former football player, now posing as an ultra runner. We're definitely going to get into the ultra running because it's fascinating. A Marine, a Team Virtus member, and a servant leader. Hal, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jake. And thank you guys for having me on. I'm humbled to be here, especially after having the chance to watch you two excel in that evolution or event. It was awesome, especially to be on the other side of that and see the changes that take place. So you're already operating at a very high level. And then from the start to the end of that, just the changes that take place and kind of the vision that expands even more. It's awesome every single time to watch that. So thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you.
Of course. And I mean, we could go in a lot of different directions, Hal. So I'm just going to give you the floor here and let you start where you're most comfortable tonight.
All right. Sounds good. And, feel free to stop me at any time with questions and things like that. When Mike came to me to ask, if I'd come on and talk about the Sunday Scaries and what I would define that as is fear and anxiety of the unknown that causes hesitation, right? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. I had a zillion things coming through my mind on exactly what I wanted to talk about. And as I was telling these guys, Jeff Forrester, who might actually be, I think I saw his name pop up on this call. We talk every week and it's kind of going through that with him. And I was on vacation in the Poconos at Camelback with my family. So I'm married, Mandy, 2 kids, 10 and 6, Landon and Addie. And my in-laws were with us and my parents were with us. And I tell him this story and Jeff's like, that's it. That encompasses everything in terms of this fear and anxiety and hesitation. So, for me, it was one of the greatest dad moments that I've had ever. And certainly I'll remember it forever, right? If you don't know, Camelback is a ski resort in the Poconos and they have a huge indoor water park. And both my kids are pretty brave, right? We push them to not put themselves in dangerous situations, but to expand their level of opportunity for bravery and courage. And my son at 10, he's hitting all the water slides. It's no big deal. Addie at the start, starts going, and then we get to that one that they call, I forget the name of it, like a Venus slide trap, I think was what they call it. It goes and it comes up in this big open area, which everyone can see the people screaming. All weekend, my son was trying to get her to go on that. And I'd ask her every once in a while, and she's adamant, no. She's scared to death of it. And this is a girl that does jujitsu, has no problem getting in on the mats, get choked out, whatever it is, right? But this scares her. And it was the last day we were there, and we were floating around the lazy river. And I told her, I said, Addie, on this next lap, I want you to think about going on that slide. You don't have to give me yes or no. I'll be happy and love you no matter what, whether you choose to or not. I just want you to take this last lap and think about it. She's like, okay. We go around one more time. We're getting out. And I said, well, she goes, I want to do it, Daddy. I was like, awesome. Look at my son, and my dad was with us. I'm like, she wants to do it. Let's go. And so, you've got to walk up these stairs, right? And it's high up. So there's a lot of time for you to do a lot of thinking, especially as a 6-year-old, right? A 6-year-old going on a slide that's probably going to terrify her. When we get to the top, we got to wait in a little bit of a line. And then it's our turn. They take that chain off and we get on that other side. It's a big raft. Like, you got to have a minimum of, I think, 5 people to go on it anyway. And you've got to hold on. She freezes, right? She starts hesitating, start letting her fear and anxiety get to her, which again, she's 6 going on this big, scary ride. And you do the normal dad things or parent things and tell them, hey, it's going to be okay. It's all right to be scared. Come on. It's going to be over in 30 seconds anyway, and all of that. And she's adamant. I can see the look in her eyes. Now, over the summer, we were at a water park where we were at a tall slide, but it was one where she would be on her own through a tube, and she's screaming like, no, 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 that she's there. And I had to pick her up, throw her down, right? And everybody gasps like, oh my gosh. But I knew once I went and met her at the bottom, she was like, yeah, let's do it again. That wasn't this situation, because where you've got to hold on, if she freaks out in the middle of it, I don't really have the ability to grab her safely and keep myself safe. Not that I put her first, but it would create a bad situation. So I said, okay, so it's time to walk back down. And that's that. As a dad, or a leader in that situation, you have to be very careful about expressing any emotion, really, especially one of disappointment. And I never like to use that word with my kids. And as my buddy Jeff always says, it's this missed opportunity is really what you feel sad about. You want them to experience that, to grow in that challenging situation and have fun in this particular one. So we're walking down the stairs, going through all these crowds of people, this line of people, and she just keeps looking back. I can tell in her face that she's sad, right? And she doesn't want to disappoint me. She wants to be brave. We get to a couple levels down and she's like, Daddy, can we go on this one instead? And I really wanted to answer, no, like, you made that decision up top. This was our last run of the day, but it didn't. I said, hey, all right, let's do it. She goes down. We get down, meet my dad and meet my son. And my dad said something to her like, hey, it's okay. I'm scared on those rides too. She walks over to me and she says, I want to do it. I said, okay. Couldn't hesitate. Didn't even have time to grab Dad and Landon. They were going to go on a different ride. We walk back up. She walks through that thing. I get on. There was like 3 or 4 teenagers that were with us up there. We asked to ride with them. And she went down it. Now, she screamed for the first part, but the teens that were in there were so good. They were like, you're doing great. And we got done. And the look in her eyes and how excited she was and how proud of herself that she was incredible, right? Didn't hesitate this time, got over that fear and anxiety. And my dad and my son are high-fiving her. And we go back to just me and her to where we were sitting and all our stuff was. And I didn't want to let this opportunity get past the gravity of what just occurred, right? Besides just going down a water slide, and to present that in a 6-year-old's language where she would understand. And so I sat her down and I said, look, no matter what decision you would have made, whether you were going to do it or not do it, will never change how much I love you. Like, I love you no matter what, just as God loves us. There's nothing you can do that's ever going to make that love disappear. But I didn't want to see you miss that opportunity. I said, let me tell you the magnitude of what just happened, right? You're a kid. Most kids that are 6 operate with maybe this much courage or bravery. You normally operate here. And what you just did today is expand that way out. And for that, I'm so proud of you. I said, that's going to give you, and again, these weren't the exact words, but to convey this to a 6-year-old, this is going to give you the ability that the next time you're scared or in a situation that makes you nervous and not sure if you want to do it, you're going to be able to think just a little bit clearer because you have this in the bank. You know that you've done this before, right? And you know that you're brave. And I said, that's what I wanted for you. And you got it today. She gave me a big hug, and I'm generally an emotional guy. So, I'm not crying, but it was right there. We go back upstairs. My wife, my mother-in-law, my mom are in the room, and they didn't know yet. So I told her, I was like, when we go in, I was like, I'll tell them the first part, and then you come in and tell them the victory. And I was like, yeah, we went up there. Then, Addie changed her mind. We had to walk all the way back down. But then Addie didn't hesitate, turned on that bravery and went back up. And Addie just lit up and told the story. And one of the best things that I heard, she's now, day goes on or night goes on, she's in the other room, and I hear her talking to my wife, and she goes, Daddy said that, kids are this brave, but now I'm this brave. And there's so much in that for her to carry forward, right? And creating that environment or that opportunity where she can challenge herself to that is going to translate to a lot of different things. Now she's 6, right? She's going to be in a boardroom sometime or a job. Eventually, will she remember this? Maybe, maybe not, but we can build on that from here. And so when I think about that story, or that how that happened, it's all relative to what we do, right? If we're in a job or a situation that we're not scared of, but have this fear and anxiety that we really don't want to do, it's relative to a 6-year-old looks at that water slide. Like, we know we're not going to get hurt on that water slide, right? It's safe. We're watching everybody do it. They don't. That is the biggest fear in the world to them, all relative to situations that we face all of the time, right? So I can put myself in her shoes. We all can, of what is it at work, in life, whether it's on a Sunday or not, that causes that fear and anxiety that keeps us from experiencing those opportunities, and how can we combat that? And thank you, Jeff, for bringing that out of me on that. But there's so many parallels there, I feel, to what you guys discuss here on a weekly basis.
And the decision-making process while experiencing the fear and anxiety is what, we try to drive towards here, and what everyone comes here trying to tease out from the guests that we have. And you mentioned a yes matrix that you use. So I'm going to jump to this, and I think we can kind of use this to guide us in a couple different directions, throughout your story. Could you tell us a little bit about your yes matrix and how you use it and apply it, or what a yes matrix is for those who in the audience don't know what it is?
Right. So I'm assuming that a lot of people on here are A-type personalities, right? Like, we can do it all. Mm-hmm. We always say, if there's an extra day in the week, wouldn't that be great? Well, we probably fill it, right? If there's 8 days in the week, we'd fill it with stuff. It's hard for us to rest, turn off, or anything, because we have a problem. Again, I'm speaking in broad terms. We have a problem saying no to things. Could be exciting, could be a challenge. So we're like, oh, I can do that. What a yes matrix does is it really flips that. And instead of saying, what am I going to say no to or take out? It's, what am I going to say yes to? That therefore assigns value to what you're saying yes to, where your heart's really in it. But it also sets criteria for, what is it worth it, right? And so for me, my yes matrix is 3 things. It doesn't have to be a yes to all of them, but you'll know in your gut if it's correct, right? So number 1 is it biblical? Does this line with God's compass of right and wrong, right? Number 2, who does this affect? And that can go a couple different ways. If I go do this, if it's a serve mission or whatever, is it going to positively affect them? Obviously, but who's negatively affected? Am I going to be away from my family for 2 weeks at the cost of, building leadership or going to serve? Has it been a long week for my wife? What does she have going on? Now she's going to have the kids. Can my parents sub in? So how is she affected? How's my family affected? That's usually my go-to. How does this affect my family negatively if I say yes? And then the third, how does it affect me? Is it going to affect me in a positive way? Am I going to grow on this? Or is it going to be a repeat of something where I'm not getting a lot of growth out of it, but I'm just saying yes? And negatively, if I do this, where am I at in body, soul, and spirit right now? Am I drained completely? Is this going to fill it back up my cup? Or am I just saying yes because it kind of feels like the right thing to do? Or is it the wise decision? And that's my yes matrix for a lot of things. I know I keep mentioning Jeff, but he's the one that helped me design this. And it just gives a whole new light and perspective on what I want to say yes to. Because I think a lot of our fear and anxiety and Sunday Scaries comes from our plates are full, right? We're trying to do too much. I mean, I'm an A-type personality, often wrong, but never in doubt, right? I'm going to go after it. And that's not always a good thing.
So does it have to be 3 questions? Does it matter how many questions you have?
Nope. You could have 20 questions. For me, keeping it simple, I can get to it right away, right? Because those 3 questions really, they're all intertwined there for me. And I would encourage you to, if that is to explore that, number 1, think about what's important and who it affects. Can you do it? I mean, you could add things like, is it financially feasible, right? That could affect things like that. So it really depends upon what you're saying yes, no to, or what you're saying yes to. But for me, those 3 things apply universally across the board on just about everything.
And it seems like a great side effect of this, we were talking about this just before the call started, was the fact that now once we're clear on it for ourselves, we can help those who are closest to us understand our yes matrix as well, so that they can also help us gut check. Maybe sometimes we're making decisions that are a little off kilter based on that. But also it'd be nice for them to be able to say, yeah, this totally aligns with everything I know you want to do, so I'm fully supportive of that. And instead of having maybe some other feelings about it.
Such a good point. And when I do leave for things like, serving with Virtus or whatever it is, teaching with 3-7 or participating in 3-7, it is so important for me to explain that. And I think I missed that for some years, right? Explaining how that's affected them. Because the last time, I think it was on Proving Ground, my son asked, why do you have to go? And I said, this is why. And this is what's going to take place. This is who's going to be affected. And guess what, buddy? You're a huge part of that, because what you're going to do at home and step up on certain things to fill in for me, you're contributing to that, right? You are going to have an effect. You can have a positive effect by doing chores and things like that, and not arguing with your sister or talking back or anything like that. But so I try to intertwine them a lot. I mean, when I leave, the first time I did this, it didn't work out. When Addie was still a baby, I was going somewhere, and Landon was probably, maybe he was 5 or 6. And I sat him down and said, look, I think it was a overseas mission. It was a week. And I wouldn't be able to talk to him. I said, look, while I'm gone, you're man of the house. All right. I need you to be there for mom and go on. When I got back, Mandy goes, we need to have a discussion on what man of the house means, because I asked him to do something, or I told him to do something, and he told me I didn't have to do that because daddy put me in charge of the man of the house. And
Oh boy.
So now we have a list of for him, what does man of the house mean? It means don't argue with your sister, do your chores before your mom has to ask you, look for opportunities to help or serve around the house to make it easier on your mom, because I'm gone, and this is your role to help whoever we're going to help or wherever I'm going to be. And now that Addie's gotten old enough, we've started to intertwine things. She's in charge of the dogs and the cat, things like that. She takes ownership of that responsibility, and it's pretty cool. I love to watch kids. Kids crave responsibility, and I don't think we give enough of that to kids now. So that's a different subject. Sorry, I don't want to go off topic there.
No, it's one of the things that when we were down at the Proving Ground that really just set me on the path that I've been on since I got back has been when you stood up in front of everyone and said, don't hesitate. Among many other great things that you said, don't hesitate. You're in this moment, you have this opportunity, don't hesitate. And for anybody listening, if you're prepared to hear that, and somebody is up in front of you saying that, it can be a very, very powerful thing. And that's what I felt in that moment. And I think there's two instances that we talk about with you in your life, both with business and with your we'll call it your physical adventures, that call for a lot of bravery, getting over fear and anxiety. So if you talk a little bit about first your business venture and what you went through to make the decisions you did that led you to where you are today.
Okay. Yeah, don't hesitate. It applies so much, right? Because the stakes can be kind of tiny, right? Or they can be life or death. And I've been in both of those. Going back to Addie, what were the stakes? It wasn't for me and her, it wasn't just a fun time on that slide, right? We hesitate anyway around there and kind of how I want to say helped, or I just got out of the way of whatever God wanted to have happen and her bravery there. But hesitating can have a lasting impact. The business side of things. So I've always been in this industry in financial planning and in wealth management. And for the first 10 years of my career, 10, 11, started out in Philly and Center City, and then eventually made my way back down with an independent firm, working for them, with them. And it was great. And we kept expanding, and I ended up in where I am now in Maryland, live in Delaware, but right over the border in Berlin with a gentleman, great guy, right? But throughout those years, everyone always taught me how to make money, but no one ever taught me how to build a successful practice. And I could just feel it, that there's a better way to do things, right? We want to revolutionize the industry on a way a client experience should happen. And I couldn't do that there. And I was very unevenly yoked. The gentleman was not a bad guy, right? But there's things that I knew, I felt in my heart that God was laying on me that said, hey, you need to go out on your own, right? You've always dreamed of owning your own business. You come from stubborn individuals in your family, down the family line, that said, I'm going to go out on my own, right? And not do what my dad did or something like that. But that wasn't the reason. It was God saying, listen, you got to go. And I remember going home, my wife and I were we engaged at the time or just got married? So this is 2009. We weren't engaged. So we weren't married yet. 2010, we were. And I told her, I said, look, I've got to leave this place. And I just feel God nudging me to go. And I don't know how it's going to turn out, but we need to pray about it and listen to what God has in store for us. So myself, her, and my dad prayed for a couple months. I already knew the decision. This was more for me being patient to let them hear it too. And to this day, that single decision was the most peaceful decision that I've ever had to make. I did not care if it was succeed or fail. Now, I wanted to succeed, right? And I knew that it would be stress and anxiety and all that stuff down the road, but I knew this was what I was supposed to do. And we didn't hesitate on it. We had that time for prayer. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, is that, so it was the most peaceful decision because you took time to make the decision?
No. So I don't want to say you make a rash decision. It was just, I felt how that process should go. The most peaceful is because I knew that's what God wanted me to do, right?
Okay.
Not be unevenly yoked. There's better things. I had prayed for years leading up to that for God to start to put good men in my life, right? High caliber. We eventually moved back from where we grew up, and my old friends, great people, but we're just not the same anymore. They want two different things in life. And I remember praying that. I remember God just starting to pluck people out of my life. And I was like, hey, I said, bring me some good men, some good people to be around. And it was, nope, I'm going to take everybody out of your life first. And that was kind of, this business decision was right on the end of that, right? So I knew in my heart of hearts, that was it. The question is when on that time. And so it took about a year to plan that, to do it successfully, right? Not behind anyone's back or anything like that. It's just we needed to get things set. So that was February of 2011, we launched, and now went from making a whole bunch of money to no revenue and a bunch of bills, right? Right away. But again, just a piece, right? Didn't hesitate on God. I could have stayed comfortable in where I was and continued a successful career. But every single thing that I have, I'm not talking material, relationships, opportunities, experiences, have all come from that decision. If I did not trust, if I had hesitated and said, well, this is more of a guarantee, right? And this is what I should do, this would have never happened. I wouldn't be on this podcast right now. And we made that, and it's just a sense of peace, right? I knew it. And funny story. So it's a week or two after we opened, and you got a little bit of stress going on, right? You know, these bills are coming in, had no idea that's what a copier actually costs back then in 2011. Just the simple things, right? I'm putting this shelf together in my office, and my wife calls and she says, are you ever going to check your text messages? And I'm like, what? And I look down, and it's a pregnancy test, and it's positive. And I still remember the emotion from that, of crying and being so happy and so grateful. And in the same token, just being, oh my God, what are we going to do now? There's another one. I got to provide for this kid. And I drove home and just gave her the biggest hug. But, you know, as none of this, if I'd have hesitated on that decision, every single aspect of my life right now, in every capacity, is different. Is vastly different from a work perspective. The other situation that Mike is referring to was more of this life or death situation. So with 3-7 Project, we do experiential events designed to bring out a lot of different qualities, strengths, faults. There's a million ways, but that's not the topic here. So this particular mission we're on was one of the advanced missions. We call it the Alpine mission, which is now that group that was there. We're known as Team Virtus, VIRTUS. And it's easy to see where we were in a general geographic area, but some of the roughest, most dangerous terrain in the States in terms of a mountain. And to give you the last half mile of trek one day to summit took us over 3 hours in a rock scramble. And the slightest misstep, you're dead, right?
It's a rock scramble?
There is zero margin for error out here in Utah.
Hal, what's a rock scramble for everybody?
So if you're climbing a mountain, you may think it's just a trail going up. These are large rocks that can either be sharp, round, and there's no steps, right? It's not like a rock wall. There's nothing. And we had zero, well, I don't want to give away too much, but we're not strapping in or anything, right? Every step, patient, present, and be deliberate, or that's it. You're dead. So we get there. I was navigator on that, myself and Bree. And everybody had a specific role, whether it was LPO, medic, and all of these things, which was interesting. We're all leaders in how we picked the roles that we needed to do. We tried to pick what we would be weakest at or not the best, so that it would be a challenge where we could grow also, right? Took navigator. So this last half hour, I'm not that big a fan of heights, right? When we go ropes courses with my son and daughter, we go on vacation, that's what they want to do with my wife. My knees usually shake until he turns around or she turns around. I'm like, hey, I'm good to go, right? Not a fan, but I do it. And I remember this whole time, that particular day, just hearing like guys say, man, I got you. It's okay. It's like, all right. So I'm calm. We're to the summit, and right? There's essentially 2 summits there. And they're separated by about 50 yards, maybe, and 10 feet of elevation. That's it. I mean, once you're at the first one, The second one's it's just ancillary to it, right? But it is the second one's 10 feet higher. And we're going across in teams. A couple guys went, I went, and I'm good. And I'm hanging out on this ledge. And as soon as I get to this ledge, I hear Chad go. And Chad Wright is the leader, one of the leaders of 37, former Navy SEAL, just ultra runner, great dude, right? I'm trusting him as the leader that day. He is the leader. There's no debate. This is a life or death situation. And I hear him go, Hal, I don't like your movement. I need you to come back. And I paused, right? And I'm thinking that, well, there's no debating this. This whole thing's over for me. All of this work up to this, and in a team environment, which is my worst case scenario other than failing for my family. Now I fail all the time, daily, big things, little things. That's not a problem. It's myself. The team environment was very tough, right? So I go back and I have to sit there for a little bit. I got some time to kind of contemplate, but when you're on mission, like there's no time to sulk or hang your head. I mean, we still got to get down. I've got to help us navigate down. Even if I wasn't doing that and I slip, someone's going to die trying to come get my dead body, right? It's just that dangerous of a situation up there. And we got back 3, 4, 5 hours later to base camp. And we always do an AAR after action report on big, small, whatever it is. We talk about the wins, losses, awesome things that happened, things that didn't like, where can we improve, and all of that. It's a chance to share an environment where people are going to hold you accountable, but also know when to press and not press. And I just remember, as we started that trek down, you've got to stay locked on, right? So I'm locked on 100%. We get back to base camp. That's when like the emotion hit me. And I was like, well, we're still out here a few more days. Like I got to bury this. So in the AAR, I'm like, hey, I'm good. I'll deal with this when I get home. Like, let's go. And I remember Chad saying, he's like, that's the hardest thing I've had to do as a civilian is pull you from that because I know who you are, right? He said, but the night before, Chris Redcliffe, who ran the fugitive task force for LAPD for a very long time, since retired, was telling a story about hesitate. And he was like, every single day, if I hesitate, someone dies, right? When I'm commanding this unit, guns, everything, if I hesitate. And that stuck with Chad. And Chad's given his AR there. And he said, Hal? He said, Chris said that last night, and I knew I had to make a call. And if I don't make that call there or hesitate, there's no more Hal. And more than likely 3-7 gets derailed or whatever it is. So hesitating because of this fear, anxiety, I kind of don't, he had to make that call. He made it. But when we hesitate because we have that fear and anxiety, well, maybe he can make it. Maybe that wasn't the environment for it. Right. And so those are two extreme different examples of hesitation. And that's what I wanted to communicate to you guys there. We had some situations where there was some hesitation in leadership roles and making a decision or kind of back and forth. Well, no one wanted to, I don't want to say offend everyone, but they weren't quite sure. Man, we've got to go with it. Sometimes you are going to be wrong and sometimes you're going to fail, but you just can't hesitate making that decision. It doesn't mean make a rash decision, but deep down, all right, this is it, do it. Mm-hmm. And that applies, I feel, everywhere, when we do hesitate and you think back to situations that you did that yourself, it's often filled with regret, smallest or littlest. In the business decision, that could have not worked out. I've been very blessed that it did, but I would never regret doing what I knew I had to do and hesitating for it, right? Or if I had hesitated, I would have lived a life of regret. It's missed opportunities. So if we're in a situation and you're going to work every week and you're miserable, right? Okay, well, just take a step back. Am I so miserable that I need to leave? And is that take it through the yes matrix, right? Am I meant to go out on my own or whatever the case may be? And if none of that's possible, I'm in this situation anyway, right? Where am I missing opportunity? Where is there opportunity? And I need to look at this from a different way, right? No one likes to be in a situation that's either uncomfortable or whatever it is, obviously within reason in a workplace. for that. And so I think that all ties together, and that hesitation and missed opportunity, and why it's so important, right? To live up to your fullest potential. Make the decision. Don't be afraid on that. You're going to be uncomfortable. It's okay.
Man, so you've taken Team Virtus all over the country doing a lot of different things, and you're also doing a lot in communities to give back. And I was curious if you talk a little bit about that, about your mission there.
Sure. So once the Alpine, so Virtus, this team, has just formed this bond that's just incredible, right? Mike and Jake, you got to experience and see a little bit of that, but literally if I got a text and it said, hey, I need you here right now, I know they're dead serious. I'll fly across the country. Like, that yes is always a yes. And we operate very almost with unspoken communication, nonverbal. And there's a level of comfort there, trust, no egos, and a level of accountability. So these are top tier individuals for that. And I can't remember, I went over this as we were discussing with, we were planning a reunion trip, and it was going to be in the Grand Canyon. One of our members has a cool family passed down for generations route that really no one knows about in there. And one of our teammates, Ashley, is like, hey, I can't go. Like, I'm going to be 6 or 7 months pregnant at that time. And we're like, oh, yeah, we don't want to have her out in the Grand Canyon, 3 days of hike away from something if something goes wrong. So we're sitting around and we just said, hey, let's not make this about us, right? Even though going on a backpacking trip or something like that in the woods, you're going to learn a lot, right? You're going to grow there. Let's turn this into a mission, and what we call a QRT, or quick reaction team. So we're strategically spread out throughout the country. There's 8 of us. We came up with essentially a yes matrix for there. Where can we plug in and serve on a moment's notice? At least 2 of us to go. How can we be the least amount of burden to whatever that situation is? So if there's a natural disaster, if it's a man-made disaster, whatever the situation and or need. This latest one was a little more planned out. And it was incredible. We don't publicize really any of that, with the exception of this last one, which was very difficult to do because we want to bring awareness to where we were, right? So it's hard to make a post on social media that says, this is what we did, because we don't want to glorify us, right? God created the opportunity. At the same time, you don't want to show to an extent of the situation we were in. It was intense, right? But you want to be an encourager for people to go serve. That post has caused, as I was telling you guys, we've got a lot of feedback and a lot of messages of, hey, how do I get involved with Virtus? How do I do it? And that's kind of what we're going through now is, what's God have in store for that team and how we serve, right? We're not some secret elite club of 8 that no, you can't get in, no, you can't. But we want to encourage, how can we build that out for everyone to go out and create a team that can serve in their community in whatever capacity, right? It could be 2, 3, 4, 8. At the same time, if we plug in someone that we don't know or haven't been and done some hard things with in a situation like we were in Baltimore, it could turn bad for everybody, right? I mean, we were prayer walking right through active gang activity. There were 6 active gangs where we were, homelessness, levels of violence, and just out of this world, and you're in it. You're like the movies, and you've got to operate down there in a calm manner, yet still show love to everyone. And it was quite the juxtaposition there on that. So that's what Virtus is. Go ahead.
Were you helping clean up? What was your task or mission there? If you're okay talking about any of the specifics.
Yeah, absolutely. We had an agenda, and this is again where you've got to surround yourself with people that hold each other accountable. As we said, hey, we'll go down there and give us the hardest stuff. We'll take it. Whatever nobody wants, that's us, right? So a little bit of ego crept in there. Like, we want to do hard tasks. There was 3 main things that we did, and you're right in South Baltimore, in Brooklyn is what is the area. I think they've had 11 murders year to date. there in this little 7 block radius that we were working in. First day is creating City of Refuge. I guess I don't want to take up too much time on them, but City of Refuge is there to serve that community. The gentleman that runs that grew up there and had 2 parents that were addicted to heroin, right? He was fortunate enough to get out and came back to serve. There's generational poverty there. The statistic for generational poverty, if one of these 4 areas, safety and security, education, health and wellness, and vocational training, if you take out one of those, just one, there's an 87% chance that that person, that when they're born to the time they die, is going to stay in generational poverty, which is just an insane statistic, right? So while we were down there, we helped set up a classroom that they have, turned it into a shop. So clearing out like 1,000 square foot place, and just trying to bring as much dignity as possible to that classroom where people are going to learn carpentry, plumbing, things like that. Second day got real, right? They have another property where there's a pavilion. It's enclosed with the exception of a wire fence that's keep getting torn down. And when you walk in, you don't have to walk in. You got eyes on you from the neighborhood everywhere, right? They're watching. We stick out like a sore thumb down there. And this place is filled with, it was essentially where homeless had come in the winter to keep warm and shoot up. So you have clothes, burnt things, makeshift beds, and heroin needles more than you can count used in essentially a dirt floor. And this is when your senses get really hit, right? Smell, just sight, and the smell is overwhelming because it's all human excrement, right? And your first thought is, how do people live like this? And then you start to think, what mindset do you have to be in that this is normal? I remember when we got it all clean, got everything cleaned out, looked great. And one of us was like, this is not normal to them, right? And your heart breaks and it weeps that the normal would be how it was. So cleaning that, we're not prepared with work boots, right? That needle can go through. We have trash cans, a shovel, and 3 brooms. So it was very deliberate to get that done, right? Every step was cautious. That's the low point for me in there because this was my mission that I chose. Like I didn't choose it, everybody had to agree to it, but the path to get there was through me. And I remember thinking, I'm responsible for this team. All I gotta do is walk outside and get shot. B, I don't want someone to get stuck with a needle. And I remember vocalizing that I feel like I'm on mile 40 of a 100-mile race. And as soon as I said it, I said, I can't believe I just said that out loud. In our AAR that night, we're going through and I said, hey, I messed up saying that. Justin Fulcher was saying, he said, yeah, he said, my low point of the day started when you said that. And I was like, man, he said, there's no sugarcoating that, right? You can't do that. All right, cool, let's move on. So that's the type of group Virtus is and how we operate there. But that same night, Billy Humphreys, who runs that City of Refuge, took us on a prayer walk and showed us everything in that community. We'd stopped and pray over their community garden that they have, which is in an abandoned lot that the city gave them, on abandoned homes, right? Where you see an extension cord coming out, plugged into the neighbor, because that's how they're getting their electricity, either stealing it, they don't know about it, or they're paying that neighbor. And just the things you see is real, right? Walking through literally active gangs, doing what active gangs do, and hearing the comments and stuff, and yet trying to maintain focus on why you're there, right? To pray for them, to serve them. And it's important for us to see those things. And so that night, it was just hard to go back to the hotel that night, which is only a half mile away, right? And that exists. And then, that was the same night. They have backpacks that are prepackaged for clothes for every different size and gender, right? Kids, females, males, male adults, female adults, small to XXL. And we hit the homeless encampments. Now, if you've ever seen homeless encampments, they're generally be in the woods or down the middle of a highway in the big cities, or not even big cities anymore. So Billy takes us to one, We park behind this gas station and we start to go in, and all I'm thinking of in this situation, my training is going to be safety and security, right? For the people we're with. We have a female with us. So there's 4 of us and Billy. Billy's on point. I'm thinking, all right, I need to stack the female in between. And I need to go in here with my head on a swivel without looking like my head's on a swivel. So at this point, that's all I'm focused on. We go in, it's dark. You can't see what's on the ground really. And the sound of the cars is taking away all my senses for stepping on a twig, leaf, anything like that, right? I can't hear anybody coming, and it's dark. We get in there and you start to see the tents and people, and Billy's calm as a cucumber. This is what he does every day. He just loves on those people. And he goes, he's like, hey, knock, knock, we got some clothes here for you if you want it, if you want to come out and get some. And he starts having conversations with them and then praying with them. And some of my team is doing that too. And I remember looking at it, and sometimes it comes out, it's almost like a zombie, right? And the same smell and things like that. But that's somebody's son, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's brother, father, whatever it is, right? That's God's children. Yeah, maybe there's some choices that went wrong, but I can tell you the stats, right? And one guy looked at me, and they're praying for him, and he's looking at me, and I catch his eyes. And I can tell you, look on my face was not one of love. It wasn't one of contempt. It wasn't one of fear. I was in that zone, right, of on high alert. And it struck me so hard that here I am to serve this guy, right? Just pray with him, have a conversation, bring a backpack. And whatever life decisions got him to that point, or someone in a previous generation got him to that point, I didn't even see humanity at that point, right? I was just worried about being alert. And it crushed me. I mean, broke me right there. And that how you're here to love these people. You need to change your attitude in the second about the situation that you're in. And it was just an incredible experience. Left there and went down MLK to do the tents and stuff. And you think, hey, they're living in tents, take backpacks. Did that for an hour or so, start to walk back, see this young couple come up. And I'm like, hey, did you pass our home? Are you guys done? We weren't home. I'm sorry, we were out. When he said that, all of us are like, that's their home, right? But I go to a neighbor's house and have that same level of high alert on their home, right? I know it's a different situation, but that's just not how, that's their home for right now anyway. And to see that humanity just blew us away. I had a very hard time adjusting when I got home, very hard. And it was just so powerful because really, I think about all the dumb stuff I've done. And again, I don't want to turn this into a personal testimony. I've had 1,000,002 chances because 1,000,001 was not enough, right? God worked overtime. The only difference between me and my decisions and them is I had parents and friends that surrounded me that if it took kicking my butt to have me stop making dumb decisions in whatever capacity it was, they did it. Now you take me out of that situation and put me in that one, who's there to hold me accountable, right? And that's why that statistic is that high. 13% is what makes it out. And so I have a very, my work ethic is you do the work consistently, that it equals not success, but you get results. There's another side to humanity from that. And especially to drive a half a mile away and, Billy wanted to go to his favorite restaurant. We went and walk in there after just leaving that. Oh man, it was just so emotional. So that's what Virtus wants to do, right? Well, I take that back. That's what we feel God is laying on our hearts to do, is go serve. In business, God has blessed us to have that ability. I'm in the season now with the business that, yeah, we still want to grow, but I'm not even needed here anymore to an extent, right? I have a good crew, a good team, and it's opened up that ability to go serve. Back to, what if I hesitate and say, I don't know if that's so wild of an idea, right? That we're going to form this thing and yeah, somebody else can do it. That doesn't get done. Not that God needs us to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. Boy, he can use us and got to be open to it. And
Be patient, be present, be deliberate. That's what I wrote
100%.
down talking earlier. Man, we could go on. I mean, we could take a deep dive into any one of these things. We really didn't even get into your ultra running career. And we have a few questions here, but I want to be respectful to everybody's time. So Hal, if we want to get a hold of you, if anybody here or anybody listening wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
I would say just I've got a public profile on Instagram. It's probably the easiest way, right? Sometimes if you DM me on there, I know with my email,
is that just Hal at Hal Carmean?
Let's see. It's HLC the second, so HLC2ND. Or if you search Hal Carmean, it might come up. I'm not that great with technology. Yeah, if you search Hal Carmean, HALCARMEAN, it comes up.
Yep. All right. So everybody follow Hal on Instagram and DM him, because I see a couple of questions here, but want to be respectful of everybody's time. Hal, this has been tremendous. Jake, anything you want to add before we wrap up, man?
No, just that, the simplicity of the message around hesitation. I feel like I met you years ago, Hal. We met in January, but it's impacted every aspect of my life, even down to today. I screwed it up today. I won't bore everyone with the story, but I screwed it up. Maybe Hal will share this with you separately. but I love the simple message. And I think we can take a lot of that with us, as we end the call now and think about, I think everyone on this call that's been hanging here, there's something in your heart that's probably being pulled right now. Like, I need to go do this. And I urge everyone just to take that action right now, whether that's saying yes to something or no to something, or changing your mind about saying yes to something. I just appreciate the simplicity of the message and how you live it and the examples you share. So thank you.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. It's not of me. You guys have heard me say this. I'm just a steward of what God's given me, either financially, talent, ability, whatever it is. I don't own it. And that's the way I view it. So how can I be used to do that? And Jake, I fail constantly all the time, right? So I'm not perfect by any means, but yeah, that's me. So, and to be fair, like I run ultra races, but I don't consider myself an ultra runner, but yeah, I enjoy doing it. It's just an incredible experience that we didn't even get to dive into, but this is
part one. I have a feeling this is part one. So we'll revisit that next time, Hal, for sure. Thank you again for being here. Thank you to everybody for joining us this evening, and we'll catch up with you.
Yeah, and then just a final plug for creative wealth management. You can just simple Google search, you'll connect with Hal there. Because they obviously want to support your business as well. So thanks, Hal. Thanks for everything. Thanks, Mike.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. See you next Sunday. Bye. Oof.